Hi everyone, I've been seeing this issue popping up in forums lately where people are saying that they've been running lists for a while with no problems, and in the last few months their open rates have been steadily dropping. So I'm going to dive in today and talk about why that's happening and what you can do to spot it and how to fix it. So let's make myself smaller there and let's look at some sites I've got to show you. So here, sudden and big decrease in deliverability. Over on Reddit, deliverability issues. Open rate went from 25% down to 5%. Even on job posting sites, we're seeing since April, my open rate has dropped from 30 to 40% to 10%. So, why is this happening? Well, back in February, Google and Yahoo released new requirements to how senders must authenticate their email, but also standards around how much they're allowed to send, spam. So we can see here, keep spam rates reported in Postmaster tools below 0.3%. Now, Gmail isn't the only email inbox provider, but for any companies selling to consumers rather than B2B, Gmail is going to make up a good chunk of your email list. So understanding and fitting to Google's guidelines or Gmail's guidelines are going to be really helpful and things to watch to make sure you're doing everything you can. Now the thing was, there were some requirements that a lot of people saw maybe, and so there was sort of some DNS records you might have needed to add it onto your website back in February to meet the requirements. But if you actually looked into Gmail's plan, they said that the requirements were going to come into place, and then slowly over the next few months they were going to up their sort of stringency on how they were going to start taking those spam reports and start actually affecting people's reputation. And this is the thing this is the big thing that really hasn't been discussed much unless you're an expert in the industry, which is your domain's reputation. So when you're in your email marketing platform, for example, ActiveCampaign or MailChimp, you might have noticed that there are spam reports, and so they track when somebody clicks spam, and that is a way to understand if you're being a good sender. Now, unfortunately, with these new guidelines, what's happening is that these inboxes are taking those spam complaints and they're applying them over time to give you a sort of reputation for your domain. And what we're noticing is that because they're, in my opinion, because they're being more stringent, that is starting to affect people's deliverability. It's declining, and that is meaning more of their emails are going to spam, and of course that results in the lowered open rates that everyone is seeing. But your email marketing platform isn't telling you about your domain's reputation, and so that's where the missing link is. So, what do you do about it? Well, Google has a free tool called Google Postmaster, which you can install on your domain. You basically just go to Google Postmaster, sign up for an account, and then you install a DNS record on your website so that Google Postmaster knows it's you and can verify you. And then it starts spitting out a bunch of really useful data. And the main one, when we're talking about these issues that people are seeing, is the domain reputation. So go into this drop down, look at your domain reputation once you set this up. If you don't see any data here, then that's okay. You may just be too small a volume, or maybe something went wrong with adding the code to the website. But you should see a record. In the top right here, you can change when the sort of period you're looking at is. We can see that over time, they're seeing a slow downward trend in the domain reputation from medium to low. And this is the key point that people may not be seeing because they're trusting the email marketing software to tell them this, but it just can't. So, what do you do about this? What if you see that your domain reputation is not high and that it is seeing this decline? Well, it's time to start using a cleaner list. Well, how do you do that? It's going to make myself big again. The first of all is the most important in my mind, and that is creating an engaged segment. So you'll want to make sure that when you're sending your regular campaigns, you're sending it to those people who have engaged with you in some form in the last 6 months, the last 4 months, the last 3 months. some kind of period that is going to exclude those who haven't engaged with your email list in a long time, whether that's an open, a click, a visit to your site, a purchase, any kind of engagement like that, a form fill. So you want to exclude those unengaged contacts because they are the ones who are most likely to continue to mark you as spam, and that's where the problems start to arise, these spam complaints building up over time. The second option is running your list through an email verification program, something like Email List Verify or Neverbounce. They contain sort of repositories of information, and they can identify if you have any email addresses that are bad or spam traps. A spam trap being an email address that spam sort of watchdogs shouldn't be on anybody's list, and when they receive email from your domain, they flag you, and it is negative for your reputation. And it'll also clean out inactive addresses or addresses that have churned because that person's left the company, that kind of thing, and that just helps in general improve the deliverability of your emails. The third thing is, and you may have already done this, but as I mentioned with the February guidelines from Gmail and Yahoo, there were some authentication requirements. So you need to make sure you have SPF, DKIM, and at least a DMARC record. The DMARC policy doesn't have to be active, but it should be on your domain at least. These are all really important to making sure the emails you're sending are authenticated, and that authentication is becoming much more weighted in terms of what email providers are looking for to give you a good reputation. And then lastly, just to add on, so the DMARC is the sort of relatively recent email enforcement protocol. So the only other thing to watch out for is that if you don't have DMARC actually active and protecting your domain, it's possible that other malicious actors may try to spoof your email address. So they may pretend to send from your email address or your domain. And when that happens, that can also affect your reputation because obviously you're not the one sending the emails, and you probably don't want malicious actors being able to send emails to people that looks like it came from you, because they're probably not having nice things to do with your audience. So yeah, those are the best three things. The first one I mentioned, sending to an engaged list, far and above the other two in terms of how it can dramatically change your domain reputation. And if you start following those practices of a clean, engaged list, sending to that, not sending too much, making sure your sending practices are great, then over time you should see that domain reputation bounce back, and it can bounce back. And it doesn't actually take that long. My hunch is that Google just wants to see that you are starting to turn around your email practices, and when it does, it's happy to give you that lift in domain reputation. For one of my clients who I worked with at the start of the year, it took maybe a couple of months before we started seeing that turnaround. So it's not irreversible damage. You can come back from it. It's just a case of being more careful with your email sends, not just sending to everyone on your list, segmenting it to look for the engaged profiles. So I hope this was helpful to you. If you need any help with this kind of stuff, please feel free to get in touch. I'm here to help. I can help with your deliverability. I can help you set up these unengaged lists. I can help you set up DMARC for your domain. And I just really want people to know that this is happening to others in the community. It's nothing to be, scared of. It's just something that's happening as these inbox providers are being more careful about spam practices. So yeah, feel free to hit me up. I'm happy to talk about email deliverability anytime. Bye.